Hello, my lovely, lovely audience. So, this is What If Deku was a Conduit? So, people without quirks are going to be hated in this world, so that means, well, how do I put it? Deku is going to be outcast by his mother as well. And only a few people actually give a damn about him, like the people that actually feel very sorry for people and are very kind-hearted. So, I'm going to tweak the story a bit and have his mother hate him. So there's that. And I'm going to say that Deku, he gets a job part-time, so that way he can actually get some money for himself. And I'm going to say that it's a courier job. So seeing how it's a big city with a bunch of heroes and stuff, Deku can't really get a bike, so he does parkour and urban exploration. Basically the same thing, but we're just calling it urban exploration from now on. And what ends up happening is this. Deku gets fucking buffed out as hell. Basically, this is what he looks like the whole anime. And he has pretty short hair, so he can't in the way from his job, and he does get bullied a lot, so there is going to be a lot of scars on him. And I'm going to say that he gets a package about, I would say one day, and I would say it is when he is, say it's when he's 13. And I would say that this package is basically supposed to be sent to a certain address. Oh, and by the way, the infamous whole storyline, conduits and all that, yeah, they're merged together. So, yeah, just the conduit stuff. No other DC stuff. And also, let's see here. Also, conduits are basically, people with quirks are basically evolved from conduits. And people that are quirkless have the conduit gene, just it's not activated. So, they're unlucky. But they're good. They're good people. They're alright. They're alright, alright? Don't worry. So, yeah, Deku, he's got the conduit gene. And it's just unactivated. That's all. And what ends up happening is, we kind of seen this before. Basically, he gets a call from the person that is sending the package, and what do you know? It's basically saying, ha ha ha, get fucked, or something. Really, basically, it's a terrorist attack. And there has been talk about it for a while, but who knew it would be a package around Deku? And boom. I would say it's around near Deku's street, so that kills about the entire area. And I would say Deku's mother died, a bunch of people with quirks died because the conduit gene doesn't really exist anymore in their bloodstream. It's completely different, completely altered. So it's not, like, the conduit gene doesn't really exist, but it's a foundation, like 1%. So I would say most people died. Like, a lot of people died. Like, everybody died except quirkless. And I would say Deku would be found in the rubble and airlifted out. And I would say that when he's recovering, I would say Misaki, Bakugo's mother, takes him in because she feels bad. She always felt bad for Deku for growing up in such a household. And yeah, so he's adopted into the family, and when he's recovering, I would say Bakugo would try and mess with him. And I would say one day, Deku's just getting back on his feet, and he's still got he's got a crutch, and I would say that Bakugo straight up blows him up, and immediately Deku uses his arm to cover himself and flexes, and immediately the explosion, the whole, like, fire and everything, is absorbed into him. And Bakugo kind of sees this. And Deku gets sent flying still, but he heals up. And immediately realizes that something's different. Because he didn't take any impact damage from the fall. He hasn't been taking any impact damage at all lately. So it's kind of weird for him. And I would say that he kind of, one day when he's, delivering a package, he is thinking about what happened, and he jumps, but doesn't jump high enough, and lands on the like ground and rolls. Well, doesn't roll, but just lands, and he kind of just wonders why he didn't take any damage, like he's not hurt or anything. And he goes to the doctor, and they check him out, and they say he's all right, completely fine. So Deku goes around, and he kind of just, well, he starts experimenting, seeing what's different. And he kind of remembers what happened earlier, how there was like no like fire or anything when Bakugo exploded him. So he thinks that he somehow absorbed the fire. So he kind of goes to a he kind of like uses his money to buy a lighter, and he goes and I would say he just lights the lighter and immediately does what he did before, and on like the 5th try he is able to absorb the fire. And he kind of slowly gets the hang of it within the few weeks that he's able to shoot fire, and that's about it. And absorb it. Now, he has a certain amount of ammunition, so there is that. And I'm going to say that over time, he kind of looks into research about this and finds out that in the early days with heroes, there were people called conduits, and that's what they were called. So he thinks that, and he looks at the research, and he compiled that it was, that what blew him up was a race fear. So he believes that he was blown up by a race fear, and that is what sparked him to become what he is right now. So he starts looking into, I would say, all kinds of things about how conduits work, and the conduit gene, how it all pans out. And I'm going to say that Deku finds out that what conduits used to enhance their abilities and stuff was blast cores. And I would say that he saves up enough money from the whole year when he's like 14. I would say he's like 14, and it's like July, I would say. No. Yeah, July. No, September. Fuck it. And I'm going to say that he gets a blast core. And immediately he read online that you just need to push your powers through it. And that's when he does it. And immediately he enhances his strength and powers from it. And he learns how to heal people. And like restrain people. And yeah, that's pretty much how he gets the ability to do so. And he starts saving up from the leftover money he has, because he was able to buy it pretty cheaply, thinking it would cost a couple thousand, like a huge amount of money, like huge amounts. But it was pretty cheap, especially with how many jobs he's able to do now. So he's able to get, I would say, 3 blast cores. 2 others beside, 3. And with the first one, he was able to get the healing and, restraining. With the second one, he's able to use hand grenades, like pop off a hand grenade. And he's testing this like in like abandoned warehouses and stuff. And he blows it up, and it kind of causes like a tremor or something, and it leashes fire. And he kind of gets a gallon of gasoline to like a jerry can and pours it out, and that's how he absorbs the fire. And he's just using matches as well. So he goes around with plans on how his hero suit should be, how he would be able to replenish it by using incendiaries, like from like an incendiary grenade. And that's pretty much how he uses his quirk. And I would say, that's how he would refuel it. And I would say on his next blast core, he would learn how to use, I would say the glide, like being able to glide up and rocket upwards. So he can kind of fly almost. And I would say Deku kind of uses this when he's on top of buildings and kind of just like to deliver packages and stuff. And Misaki would like notice that he's able to use his quirk now, and Bakugo would stop kind of bullying him because he's able to kind of like heal up from doing this and kind of just get rid of all those days of being hospitalized instantly and rehab. He has no muscle damage or anything from the explosion or anything at all. I would say the last blast core, he would be able to. Last blast core, I would say he's able to. I would say turn his body into pure fire and kind of move like that, like get into areas and stuff like that. Or just better yet, just be able to create a fire shield. Better yet, no. I would say propel himself forward as well as create a shield to shield himself and kind of bulldoze through things. So yeah, I would say that Deku's pretty happy with how his life is and how he has, fire abilities and able to protect the people he cares about now. And even though Misaki isn't his mother, he still cares about her. And I'd say he's doing a lot of stuff now, just climbing a lot and all that. And he doesn't really wear too much of heavy jackets because he can kind of he doesn't really get cold because of how his quirk works. As long as he's got fire in his body, he's able to, keep going. And I would say that when people raise their hands to go to UA, no one really laughs at him because they've seen him on the streets and pass by their houses and stuff and just kind of fly around. And they see that he probably has a really good shot of getting into UA. But cops have told him to stop it and all that. So he does kind of wear a scarf around his face or whatever, kind of just to not get recognized by cops. And no one really stops him because at the same time he kind of helps people on the streets a lot with trying to stay warm, and kind of just gets a dumpster a dumpster and fills it up with some wood and then drops a bit of fire in it and lighting it up, getting some warmth through them. And that's kind of how a lot of homeless are being able to stay alive on the streets. But also at the same time, people see him as a common kind of a good Samaritan, really. And yeah, everybody just sees him in a good light. And I would say, I'm going to say that Deku, when Misaki gets sick or something, just someone's gets sick, he kind of just heals them. And yeah. So, I'm going to say that when the sludge villain attacks, Deku is going to, he would be able to fend off against the sludge villain a bit more by popping a few grenades off and just blowing up the sludge villain as well as just keeping it back. And I would say the sludge villain would retreat as Deku would be shooting it and climbing around and getting on top of things and shooting at it, preventing it from getting close and burning it pretty badly. And having a shield that could burn it. I'm going to say he doesn't have a shield. I'm going to say that he has instead kind of a way to push it back with just heat. And kind of just push it back. Like how Cole had the ability to kind of blast things away. He's kind of got a fire blast, so he can just kind of blast people away. And he's got fire bolt, which that's his way he fires out and shoots it. So yeah. And I wouldn't say he has any ammunition besides the lighter he has, and he just absorbs it. And he's gone through quite a lot of lighters now just to keep himself with ammunition. So there's that. And yeah, so yeah, I'd say that he's got a lot of firepower. And I'm going to say that when All Might comes over, he sees him holding off against the sludge villain, and All Might immediately takes it out and bottles it up. And I would say that Deku kind of asks if he could, if he can have his autograph, and he gets his autograph. And I would say Deku has some thoughts he probably wouldn't be able to become a hero with his quirk, with his being a conduit and all that. So he kind of follows All Might asking if he can become a hero with this ability, and he finds out about the whole thing, And I think Deku would at that point ask if he could try something on All Might just to try and help him. And I would say that's when he uses his healing ability on All Might. And he heals All Might with the fire. And I would say that it would take away the scarring, and I would say it would regrow his lung, and it would just remove a lot of the scar tissue. But there would still be a lot of pain and problems with trying to use the quirk. But at the same time, there'd be a lot. It'd be a lot better. Like he could do it for a lot longer. Like he's close to being at his prime. He just needs to get the treatment like a whole lot more. And I would say All Might is shocked at that point, seeing that this kid can heal people with unbelievable like injuries and use his quirk in a healing way. And I would say that All Might says like, you have the potential of becoming, probably succeeding me as the greatest hero. And I would say that All Might asks like, what is his quirk? And I would say that's when Deku explains that he's a conduit, and that explosion that happened a few years ago, was a ray sphere explosion. And he kind of like figured it out. It was a ray sphere explosion already. Like a bunch of the heroes already knew it was a ray sphere explosion because they have like investigations and all that. And I would say Deku like would be wearing this all the time with just different gloves, like black gloves. And I would say that All Might would well, except when he's at school he wouldn't be wearing this. I would say that All Might would be interested in how he was actually a conduit and how this whole thing would be. So I would say All Might would be saying stuff like how you just made this hero keep going for a few more decades maybe. And that's kind of like where when Deku, they hear the explosion and the Sledgehammer would have escaped. So Deku sees All Might jump away, and then Deku kind of just propels himself in the air and launches himself flying and kind of just glides through with the fire. And he sees from above the sludge villain, and I would say he takes a scarf from his backpack and immediately wraps it around his face. And well, it's like the scarf he would be using for his career jobs, because I think after school he would do the career jobs right like immediately. And I would say that he would just like go back and change bags, but he would always have a scarf just in case he needed to do a job and he was called in. So yeah, he puts the scarf on, and I would say All Might sees this, and Deku immediately puts his bag down the rooftop. And I would say All Might just watches just to see what would happen, because he's still coughed up blood a bit. And he's just kind of like watching from the sidelines, because his body went through a huge experience of healing. So he is going to definitely be out of commission for this fight entirely. That's when Deku comes down and immediately fires off some firebolts and hits the sludge villain. And the sludge villain would recognize Deku, saying, "You again." And that's when Deku would be pushing the sludge villain like off of, hitting it with so much heat, keeping it off of like Bakugo. And I would say when he hits it enough that it would be kind of like, it would be injured or, stressed really with how much, or at least, pushed back, I would say, with how much heat it's taking. He would grab Bakugo and throw him far away from it. And he would throw him with an absurd amount of strength, because conduits have absurd amount of strength. And he would throw him away from the battle. And I would say that's when the Sledgehammer would kind of grab onto Deku, and he would just use a huge amount of fire just to push him back, and would be using all of his fire. And Bakugo would jump in and hit it with explosions, and that's when Deku would absorb the fire but not the force. And he would then be kind of getting some of his fire back and hit it some more. And that's kind of like when the heroes would come in after they're like freed from it and start hitting the villain. And that's kind of where Deku would absorb the fire from the cars that are blown up, and because there would be, and from the fire that's just coming out of a gas pipe, and he would absorb the fire and immediately just start firing at it and hitting it with a bunch of fire. And people are wondering, who is this mystery person that's fighting off a villain? I would say Bakugo's kind of got like a thought maybe it's Deku, but he doesn't know. Because he's been silent this whole time, hitting it with everything he's got and firing, popping off grenades, like fire grenades, and hitting it with so much fire and hitting it with so much firepower, it's just taking a hit badly. And he's jumping around, he's gliding around above it and hitting it with so much power. And a few heroes are probably like thinking this person has got some insane firepower and would probably be a great hero, and they start trying to help him and take it down together. And the heroes, they kind of see that this mystery person, if they get close, he could just jump away, because he flew a bit earlier and flew into the battlefield, into the fight not too long. And I would say the police would get in there and they would grab it, and that's when Deku kind of just grabs the rest of the fire from the pipe and immediately launches himself away onto the building, grabbing his backpack and off to who knows where. Well, you know where he's going to go, home. And I would say that Deku would be kind of like, his outfit would be kind of burnt a bit because of how much fire he was letting off. And he would probably be, like, Bakugo would probably be, like, wondering still who the hell that person was. And there'd be an awkward altercation with Deku and Bakugo, him trying to hide what happened and all that, and succeeding amazingly. So yeah, Deku would be he'd be scot-free from it. And I would say that All Might tracks Deku down when he was going home and kind of just asks him to, like, learn from him, at least to try and get some martial arts or something, like if there was any way to help him in any way, really, like try and pay back Deku. And I would say that with how, like, if he says yes, like, he would pay him back however he could, because he owes him his life, and if there's anything he needs, just ask. And I would say that there would be two things he would need. He's been trying to get blast cores, and I would think All Might would hear about these before, but no one's really been buying too many of them, because there's been a big increase of them recently because of the blast ray sphere. So yeah, there'd be an increase, but at the same time, people would be, I would say, not really interested in them. And the only people that would be are, like, the people that are making Trigger. So yeah, I would say that he would ask for a blast core, and also maybe a way to get into UA, if that's possible. If not, like, he'll try and succeed on his own, but that's about it. But no, yeah, I'm going to say that he would ask for a blast core, because getting into UA would be too much. So yeah, he would ask for a blast core. That's it. And that's the only way he could really pay him back. And I would say he would get one the day before of the UA exam, like the whole exam for UA and all that. So I would say, I'm going to say that Deku would be, I would say that he would get his ultimate ability at this point. And that is, I'm going to say that he gets a fire missile from the blast core. And yeah, that's about it. He gets a fire missile. Oh, and his flames are green, by the way. So yeah. And yeah. I'm going to say that, yeah, Deku gets a blast core, and All Might sees the whole, like, how it works and everything, and sees him pop it off, and immediately is amazed by how powerful it is, and also gets some treatment. So that's awesome. And when Deku, when they basically talk about it, is if Deku ever gets into UA, he will ask for treatment at least a bit, just so he can get back into the fight. Because then he doesn't really need to think about retiring. And I'm gonna say that he kind of keeps the whole relationship a secret, because if people found out, there would be problems. And I'm gonna say that Deku, when he takes the UA exam, he aces pretty well. He gets really high score on the, I would say same score for the written exam, and also I wouldn't say he fell. I would say he would get there pretty quickly at a really good time, a lot earlier than Bakugo. And I would say that he wouldn't trip and he would get there early. And I would say on the practical exam, he kind of just is ready and just ready to just go to the kind of like get down with these robots and melt them. And he's got one problem though, and that is the ammunition. He's going to need to find a way to get fire. And he doesn't know how he'll do it, but he'll probably just have to rely on his ammunition that he has. So, yeah. And now it's time for, the practical exam. And that's kind of where he nails it pretty well. I would say he destroys robots left and right. And people were just admiring his body and physique when he came in. Because I would say that he came in looking like this and just they saw the scars, they saw him just like a decked out person, and they would kind of be just amazed by how much power he's got once they see it. So yeah, people would be, when they see the fire, like him pop off fire and just shooting at it, I'd say a few heroes kind of like think they know, like they think this is probably the quote unquote the Good Samaritan that's been saving people, and the person who took down that Sledgeville not too long ago, like a few 7 months back, and 6 months back, I would say. Yeah, 6 months. And immediately I would say that Deku gets definitely noticed by Nezu, because he is the same fighting style, and he's taking out robots left and right. And I'm gonna say that the 0-pointer, when Naraka is like trapped underneath, Deku hits it with a five fire missiles, and then pulls her out of there immediately. And seeing how she's not able to walk, he heals her up and gets her out of there. And they kind of just make it in the nick of time. And people kind of like saw the amount of damage his fire missiles were able to do. Like, the judges were pretty much stunned beyond belief how much power he was able to actually fire off. And yeah, so after that, I would say that he would easily be accepted in, and All Might would be proud of him, as well as seeing how he was able to actually get a blast core. I'm going to say he's got another blast core as well. And his ultimate ability would be, I'd say I would say he gets like a generation kind of ability, he's able to generate his own more ammunition by going off of his body heat, and kind of just going off of that, and just generate more like ammunition through that. But it's a very short amount of time, because it would just kind of burn him out a bit, if you get what I mean. Fun little pun there, but no. So yeah, Deku gets in, and immediately when he gets in, I would say Raka would thank him for saving her life. And yeah, so Deku kind of like popped off a lot of shots, and I would say he would be out of ammunition, because he would fire off I would say 7 or 5 fire missiles, and people had seen the 0-pointer. If it took another hit, it would have been done for. And then I'm gonna say that Deku, a lot of people are wondering what his quirk is, and just for the sake of it, he doesn't tell everyone that he's a conduit. Only people that know is All Might, and that's it. And he just says that he has a fire manipulation type of quirk, and he's able to produce fire from his body, and that's about it. And kind of use that fire to kind of manipulate things. And people are just kind of like psyched out by that. And immediately I would say that Deku, he would kind of like have a sense, kind of like just to where, like, to find fire. Like how, I guess, Cole had that sense to like find electricity. But his is to find like fire. Like he has like an idea of like where fire would be. Like he could feel the heat. Just mentally almost. And yeah. So I would say that around what I would say when Aizawa does the whole physical exam, Deku uses his abilities and does that kind of like the put. Did I say about the push? I think I did say about something about push. So I would say he gets like, with how many jobs he's doing now and how he's doing it so fastly, I'd say he would add 2 blast cores on the. You know what I mean. Well, he gets the powers, whatever. But yeah, he's got the powers, and I would say that he uses that kind of like push to propel himself, for the run, and starts. Well, he kind of used the. It wouldn't really take up that much fire to just fire off that. I would say it like takes off 25%, and the glide doesn't takes any. It's just what he can do. And push-ups, all that stuff, all the stuff really that was going on. The punching machine, I would say that he would break it because Conduit's are ridiculous strong with how much strength he even has in the beginning, so he would probably break it. So there's that. And I'm gonna say that I would say that when Deku gets a let's think. Oh, let's think. Crap. I'd say he gets like high, like up, and the purple dude gets kicked out. Something with an M. I can't remember. I think it's an M. I don't remember. Either way, tell me in the comments. I can't remember. And he gets kicked out, and I would say that people are just kind of amazed by Deku's body and physique and how he's able to move. And how coordinative, how flexible with his fire he is. And people are just kind of impressed. And yeah, so then there's I would say Deku is let's see here. Then there's the heroes versus villains. And I would say that Kendo, the girl that, enlarging her hands, would be in this class now. And I would say that because I would say that Deku is able to let's see here. I would say trying to think. This is a hard one. This is a very hard one. I would say that people. This is really hard, actually. Thinking about it. I'd say that he would be teamed up with. Bakugo, because All Might would team them up. And immediately, I would say that, no, I'm going to say Todoroki, because I would say that he wants, Deku, All Might wants Deku to try and have Todoroki use his fire side. And I think the whole time he's talking with him, that when he finds out that his ability is, half cold, half hot, he kind of, respects that, and also writes it down in his journal a bit, and kind of thinks, why can't he why doesn't he use his fire, it's his own thing. And I would say that Todoroki kind of realizes this when he's when they're taking out Bakugo and stuff, and Ida. And I'm gonna say that he uses his fire to kind of like push Bakugo back just once. And Deku, like, All Might would kind of be impressed by what he was able to do. And seeing Deku being able to shoot off shots and all that, and able to actually, I would say he would take out Ida pretty quickly, and then use the restraints on Ida. And when it's over, they would just pull him off. And I think people would find that pretty impressive, that he's able to restrain people with fire. And it's kind of funny that Ida was actually pinned down by that. And yeah, they would win easily. But I would think that Deku is seen as someone who's very powerful and flexible with their quirk slash powers, and his like whole fire thing. And I'm gonna say that after that is the USJ, and I'm gonna say at the USJ, Deku, he'd still be put on the boat with Froppy, and I would say that he would he'd be able to go in water, unlike in Infamous. With Cole McGrath, he wouldn't be, like, Cole McGrath couldn't go into water. So I would say he would go into water, and I would say Deku kind of just, like, heats up the water and kind of boils everyone alive. And just everybody's burnt and steaming, and kind of just, they crawl out where the beach is, and they just get out of there. And, yeah, so... yeah, everybody would, and I would say his hero suit is kind of him like this, with a mask on, and it wouldn't be something like All Might, it would be something his own, because he would kind of be on his own a lot, and he would have a lot of time to think about what he wants to look like as a hero, and he would just have his, like, something that's not holding him so much, like something that's so tight. He would be wearing this, and having incendiary grenades on his waist to kind of like, fuel up in case he's running low on ammunition. And I would say that when the Nomu attacks, Deku would go into his kind of Juggernaut form. Well, you know what I mean, like push at him with his Juggernaut form, or Juggernaut push, or whatever. Let's call it that, Juggernaut push. Juggernaut push, and he would hit the Nomu and bash it, like, it would just kind of like carry him and push him into a wall, pretty much breaking the Nomu's back and burning it pretty badly. And I would say that Deku would burn it to smithereens and fire off a lot of shots at I'm trying to remember, Kitogiri, I think it was, the shadow guy, and pretty much just burn him a bit and get his darkness away. And I would say that all the other heroes like would be hit by his blast, his heat blast, where he would be able to kind of just like give them like it basically feels like a heat wave just hit them, and it just burns them a bit, gives them a bad sunburn, and pushes them away. And I would say that a lot of people are getting hit by this. And I would say no one knows about him, how he's able to absorb the fire. I think they just think it's just on him. So I think that when he is low on fire, he kind of takes a step back and looks for somewhere where there's not a lot of people and throws down an incendiary grenade. And it blows up, and he absorbs it immediately. And no one really notices that, so he's fine with no one noticing that, because it would kind of blow his cover. And I would say that Deku fires off some shots from behind and hits them, all the villains, and helps out Aizawa with covering fire. And I would say Aizawa would be able to like disable his wouldn't really be able to, actually. I'd say it would just like lessen his abilities. That would be it, because he's a conduit, and it's like quirks are evolved from conduits, but they just get weaker. That's it. They just kind of like decrease in strength, and that's it. But they kind of branch out to different things that they can do, and that's kind of just how the conduit gene was able to mutate. So yeah, that's the USJ. And All Might would come in around then and just take out the villains and be able to be a lot stronger because of the treatments that Deku has been providing for him. And I would say it like every time All Might has a time to talk with Deku, they kind of do the treatment, and Nezu was able to see it as well as Aizawa. Well, anyone that was close really got to see it, and they were able to see how it was able to do so much to help him. And well, I think all the teachers were in on it, so yeah, they would see that it would do so much just to help him, and they'd be impressed. And I think that Recovery Girl would be very impressed on how his fires work, and how he's a conduit, and how he's able to heal from this. And she would think that he's a very lucky kid for being able to heal from all these things just by absorbing fire. And I think she would look into the conduit genes and how it would work, and be looking at it and be really interested by how it is, and how it's like recovering his body so quickly. And they'd be kind of just impressed overall by how Deku's able to help out so much. And they see him as like he could become the next All Might, or like best like secret bringer of peace and healer of mankind really. So people can like kind of see this as being the most, like Deku being the most greatest hero out there. So yeah. And when Deku, on the sports festival though, I would say on the, I think it's the cavalry thing, yeah. The cavalry thing, they, no, it's the race first. I would say Deku gets there first, because he would be able to propel himself faster and go over the minefield and over everything, and just fly over there. Just get glide over there, and people would see this and be impressed by how he's able to fly with green fire. And I would say the cavalry thing, teams are basically the same, yeah, except I'd say that, yeah, except there's one person that's with other people. You'll understand what I mean. But basically, the jetpack helps Deku kind of get up, and he absorbs some of the flames without people like really seeing when he's up in the air, and he's kind of just gliding around. And I would say that the girl that made that was making it specifically for him, so he could fly up and kind of just hover in the air better and stay propelled upward. And yeah, so he's kind of just been up there hanging out and providing it fuel for it. And his team is kind of like, he's coming back down to like kind of like recharge. And when I mean recharge, I mean just like kind of like take a break, because he kind of needs to be with his team in order to win. And I would say that he only uses it to as like, that way they can't get it, and they kind of just push them back while he goes down and stays down there. It's basically just, think of it like this. He goes up when they come in to grab the bandana, and he hangs out above. When they leave, he comes down and he glides down. And when it's kind of like he's using it as a launch pad and coming back down to land. That's about it. And I would say he would fire off a few shots from up there. And seeing how he's able to grow so quickly with these blast cores, he was able to probably very much quickly get some blast shards as well, because there was the ray sphere. So he would also be gathering a lot and having a lot more firepower to increase his amount. So he would be carrying a lot of firepower. And I'm going to say that when Deku I think when Deku goes against the guy who can I think he would win and get all the points, and I would say that he would go against the guy who can brainwash you. I would say that he would immediately fire off a shot, hitting him in the hitting him in the chest, and it would probably hurt a lot. He'd fire off like one shot. And I would say he would aim for I would say he hit him with a heat blast and push him off, and immediately that's it, winning. That was it. He just wins immediately like that. And I'm going to say that after that, with Todoroki, I would say Todoroki doesn't know about him how he's able to absorb fire. So when Deku is he uses up a bunch of his fire, he would recharge when he's waiting for his next fight. So he would recharge and use a lighter and just recharge like that. And I would say that Deku, when he's fighting Todoroki and Todoroki's using the ice and he's using all these fire missiles and everything, and he uses his brief charge of like using up a bunch of fire without having any problems. Todoroki's kind of like pushed back at this point, but then I would say that people kind of just they're kind of like impressed that Deku is able to just fire off so many shots. And then when he's kind of like looking tired and Deku's kind of like realizing that he can't replenish his fire, and he's kind of like he's lost. And he's waiting for the hit, and that's when he feels the warmth of fire on his body as Todoroki hits him with fire, and it kind of pushes him back, but he absorbs the fire with both of his hands. And that's when people see like a tornado of fire that was hitting like a huge amount of fire that would have probably needed walls, that immediately stops, and people see Deku absorbing the fire. The crowd, it would be amazed by this. Fire is hitting him, and he absorbs it all and gets closer and closer and closer. And that is when Deku, when he absorbs all the fire, he feels powerful. He is going at his might, and that's when Todoroki stops, and they just see the fire being absorbed. And that's when heroes all around the stands, they say under their breath, "Conduits," or, well, I guess they would say he's a conduit. And immediately he absorbs the fire into his body, and then he unleashes one shot that uses up, pretty much evens out his power. Well, pretty much fires off multiple shots, which Todoroki would be using his ice to prevent. And he would be firing off multiple uber-charged fire missiles at Todoroki, which would then send shockwaves around the crowd. And people would be hearing this thunderous and loud sound, boom, 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 firing off multiple shots. And then, immediately after those thundering shots were shot off, Deku would then win, because those thundering shots would then break the ice and send Todoroki flying. And that is when he is out. And that is when Deku, with the remaining power he has, because he feels like he could do anything, goes and takes a nap. And people are realizing that this kid is a conduit. And people are talking about it. Everybody's saying, "Did you know he was a conduit?" People are saying he's a conduit. One of the first bearers of quirks. He is revolutionary in power. He could probably rival All Might with his power. And that is when Deku, our lovely Deku, when he wakes up, he feels powerful. He feels like he could do something. He could do an ultimate move that he's never done before. And that's when he goes over, and when he's facing Bakugo, he fires off shots and shots and shots and shots. And they get a little weaker every time, but then he uses his ultimate. He uses his ultimate, and that is when he emits fire from all sides of his body, every inch of his body, and unleashes a huge amount of fire, which then he is able to basically look like, I wouldn't say, I'm going to say that he sends out like a solar flare of fire. No. I'm going to say this. He takes, he punches into the ground and grabs a rock, and he supercharges it with all of his power left. This is the first thing he does. Bakugo's coming at him. He punches Bakugo with his other hand. Actually, no, he kicks him. And Bakugo goes flying backwards. And he then cooks it. And with the last amount of power he has, he throws this rock. And immediately, boom! Bakugo is sent flying out of there. And immediately, that is when Recovery Girl, everyone is going in there with a healing ability just to check out what happened, assessing the damage and everything. Heroes kind of just realize that he just fired off. You know what? No. Yeah, I'm going to say yeah, why not? Because screw it. He fired it off, and I would say Bakugo is tremendously hurt. And I mean missing. His arms are burned to crisp. Bone is showing. Legs are burnt to a crisp. And most of his body is burnt. And that is when Deku uses the last amount of his power of when he's supercharged like this. Uses the last amount and heals Bakugo with everything he's got. And it transcends him back to what he looked like before the fight even occurred. Every injury, every stretch mark, everything that ever hurt him, or every muscle, everything is repaired immediately and healed completely. And everything, he is no longer in pain. He's no longer screaming. He's no longer in any pain. And immediately, people back up. And the heroes that are there, that were got there, they are told to keep their mouths shut. And they do. Recovery Girl, they're all shocked by how much firepower he was able to actually unleash and also put into saving a life. And they realize that this kid could rival every hero on the planet. And they wouldn't be able to stop him. And he could be firing off multiple of these things. And they're calling them nukes. He's basically firing off nukes. Mini nukes is what they're calling him. You know what? I'm going to say that they're mini hydrogen bombs in the end. Yeah, well, actually, they're basically just mini nukes. So, yeah, from like Fallout, mini nukes. So that's pretty much what they're calling them. And, yeah, people are impressed by the sheer power. The stadium was completely destroyed at this point by that explosion. And people are just amazed by how much firepower he has. Bakugo barely looks at him in the eyes because he knows something is just wrong with him. He's got power that he should not have, and he's jealous. He's screaming with rage when he wakes up. And I would say that is where we are going to be concluding this part. I hope you all have a good day and a good night. And also, I hope you enjoyed this What If, because it took me forever to make. I'm going to say this right now. I had to get some help from a friend of mine named Metal, and a friend of mine named, well, he's a friend of all of ours. I think we all know him. Lazy What Ifer. Thank you, bro. Thank you. And, yeah. So, yeah. This was What If Deku was a conduit. And also, I hope you all have a good day and a good night. Peace out.